This is Pop Culture Confidential, and I'm Christina Yerling Biru. Hey everyone, and welcome to the show. This week's episode is a special one. I'm bringing you the live interview I did with writer and director Benny Safdie at the Stockholm International Film Festival a little while ago, where he was also honored with the Stockholm Visionary Award. A huge thank you to the festival for having me moderate this great conversation with Safdie about his new film, The Smashing Machine, obsessive characters, whether he'll team up with his brother Josh again, and so much more. Enjoy! I would like to introduce the producer, director, writer, and editor of The Smashing Machine, Benny Safdie. Please join me.
Wow. Thank you. Wow.
It's like we meet in the octagon, right?
This is beautiful. That is just awesome.
Soak it in.
Thank you, everybody. That really is just like
We're so excited to
the
have
best.
you.
I'm on now. Should we
Yes,
open this?
please.
No.
Go
Not
ahead.
for everybody, unless you don't, and then you don't want it. Thank you. That was beautiful.
Thank you for all your films. I mean, at a certain point, you were seriously considering becoming a physicist, and the universe had different plans for you.
That's right.
And we're so happy about that.
Yeah, you know, it's. I think it was right after Good Time. So it was Daddy Longlegs actually played at this festival in 2009. So it's amazing to come back here after all that time. And it was like the first one of the first like festivals that me and Josh went to. It was like, oh my God, there's all this stuff. It was a big deal. So to come back is very meaningful. But yeah, at some point after, so it was Daddy Longlegs we made, and it was successful, but it was like, again, it was to get the next one made was really difficult. Get the next one made almost impossible. And then after Good Time, it was like I had just had my first son, so he was 2 weeks old when I started filming Good Time. And while I was editing that movie, my wife went back to work because she had to go back to work she took her leave and then she had to go back to work, and here I was editing this film at that point I wasn't getting paid anymore, so it was done. So we didn't have a babysitter. I was just editing this film with my son, like in between naps. And I just remember thinking like, this is not sustainable. You know, it's not fair. It wasn't fair that like, so my wife just has this son, and then she has to go back to work after 3 months, and like it wasn't fair that she was the one earning all our living and our health insurance and all that stuff. I was like, so I'm gonna have to, if this doesn't work, I'm gonna have to figure something else out. It's just that's kind of where I was, and I had always been interested in physics. I loved physics, and I thought, you know.
That was your backup.
It was my backup. I would have gone back to school and learned, because I always wanted to be a teacher. You know, that was something that's always been very exciting to me. Because it's, in a way, you're teaching, telling stories, you're getting people to understand it. So there was a possibility, you know. And I was like, but if that did well enough to make the next one, and so on. And it's like you just kind of keep every movie I make, I'm like, this might be it.
You did.
And so the fact that I'm even making another one is exciting. So
very exciting. Let's get into that one. So The Smashing Machine, as I mentioned, you're the producer, the director, the writer, the editor. It seems very close to you, a very intimate portrayal. What did you personally understand about Mark Kerr that made you want to dive into this?
So yeah, it's definitely like, so the idea of somebody who is extremely strong, like physically, I was like thinking about this before. I'm attracted to people who you make a judgment about them, and then you learn that they actually have a lot more going on than you originally expected. Like you look at, I played a character named Dougie in a show I made with Nathan Fielder called The Curse. You look at Dougie and you immediately think, oh, I know that guy. He's an asshole. He's full of himself, all that stuff. But then you realize he's dealing with a lot of guilt. And his whole life is actually falling apart. But he doesn't let anybody else know that. He'll cry in private, you know? And I thought that that was something that was very interesting, is this guy you think has everything put together, who's like the cool guy, is actually the saddest person in the room and dealing with an intense pain that he's hiding. Not too dissimilar from Mark Kerr, who's this big, strong guy. You look at him and you immediately make a judgment, oh, that guy's got everything. But it turns out he doesn't. He has a relationship with his girlfriend that's incomplete because he's not including her in his life as much as he should be. He's focused on what he wants to do, and he doesn't know how to bring everybody into his orbit. And at the same time, he's struggling with addiction, and he doesn't know what to do because he's ashamed about that. Stuff has maybe happened to him in his past that he is dealing with emotionally, but doesn't know exactly how. So he's maybe not fully equipped to understand himself, but he's trying really hard. So all of those things I can really relate to, you know, because like things have happened to me that are bad, and I think that like I don't like that to be the excuse, and I think that that's something that I think part of it is there is a shame there, like with Mark, like, oh, I don't want to be defined by my addiction, because if I tell somebody about it, then I'm going to be ashamed that I'm weak in that way.
You're forever the addict.
It's what?
Yeah, you're forever the addict.
Yeah, and it's like, and it's always that, like that. But then again, it comes with that is recovery, which I think this movie is a lot about. Is what does it mean to truly change your perspective on life? What matters to you? And it came at a point in my life where that was very important. And so you can't. I think it's like, again, maybe you look at me and you don't think, oh, he would make a movie about an MMA guy. But I would, and I love it. You know, it's like I felt like I understood the struggles that Mark was going through, and I thought I could learn about myself in the process. And I realized Dwayne felt the same way, and about the same things. And then that meant we could get really deep with his performance and make a performance that's so subtle, and that like. I said to him from the beginning that we're going to cut to the real Mark at the end of the movie. And I want people to think that you were the same person. I want them for 5 seconds, or maybe 2 seconds, not to realize that it's a different person you're looking at. And in my head, the whole movie takes place while he's walking through the grocery store. He heard that song playing on the radio, and then the memories of his whole career kind of cycled through his head, and we catch up with him as he goes to the checkout. But it came from me reading an article with Mark where he said, I guess he was at a car dealership and he was selling somebody a car, and he thought it was so funny that they had no idea what he had been through in his life. That here he was just dealing on a normal basis, and this person had no idea. 4 Abu Dhabi championships, 2 UFC championships, 4 Pride, like all this insane stuff, and yet here he was, just like anybody else. Yeah, and I thought, okay, well that's a lot of why I make movies, is to highlight the extraordinary and the everyday, you know?
I want to talk a little bit more later about the obsessives that you're interested in, but talking about Dwayne, he came to you with this. He had bought Mark Kerr's life rights early on, but it got very much a new role for him. He's so raw and so vulnerable. How did you work with him, or rather, how did you build trust with him that he would go to these emotional places?
I think, again, it was like, so he originally in 2019 is when I first heard about it. And then we were talking, and then things just kind of, COVID happens, things fall away, and we reconnected again, because I was thinking like, oh, well, what am I going to do next? This was just after The Curse, and what do I do? And it was like, well, I hadn't stopped thinking about the movie since I watched the documentary, and I imagined Dwayne doing the things that he would need to do to get the performance. And I knew that he would do. I just knew he could do it. When I met him, I was just like, oh, the fact that he wants to play this guy tells me so much, because it's not a character he would normally play. But at the same time, I don't think that this disputes the things he's done before. I think it only deepens them in a lot of ways, because you're like, oh wow, he was able to do all of that with all of these feelings inside of him. And that kind of, it just allows you, it deepens your view of him in a lot of ways. And I think, again, it was just a matter of, I opened my brain to what exactly it was that I wanted to do. I was like, when I saw the documentary, I thought, I wish I was there. And I wish I was there to capture it. Like, that's not fair. I wasn't around at that time. And so I recreated the world and filmed it how I would film it on 16 millimeter. And then when the documentary couldn't see certain things, I'd make those scenes up, or I'd add scenes. And I said to Dwayne, though, that like, I want people to believe that this is 100% real. I want them to know it's you, which is why the makeup is kind of this hybrid between Dwayne and Mark. It's a different person on the screen. It's like a representation of what Mark is, as seen through Dwayne. And fun fact, those are my eyebrows, actually. I sent, because we were trying to figure out the eyebrows of it, and when Kazu sent me one version, they were a little too arched, and it made it a little bit like he was angry all the time, and so I sent him a picture of my eyebrows. I said, why don't we do it like this? And Kazu's like, I love your eyebrows. So my eyebrows are
They're good.
Yes. So in that sense, I felt like I'm a part of the character also, you know?
And I just to mention, you're mentioning the genius Katsuhiro, the
Yes.
makeup artist who transformed Gary Oldman
Oh,
into Winston Churchill and everyone
and
else.
Maestro, the arms,
Yeah.
the old arms on Bradley Cooper were. So when he wanted to do this, I thought it was amazing. But again, the subtlety at which he approached it, we were really able to capture a new person.
Yeah.
And I think that was very important for Dwayne, because when he was going to be exploring these parts of himself, I think it was helpful that he was doing it from this place of this character. And it was interesting, I heard Ryan Bader talk, who I love. He's a fighter, never
So
acted
good.
before, and he does an incredible job. He plays Mark Coleman, and he was saying it was interesting for him because when he entered the room, it didn't look like Dwayne. So he just felt he was acting with another fighter, and that was really helpful for him. But again, it was like from the beginning I was saying, I really want, in 10 years, like, these fights to be uploaded to whatever video platform exists at that point. But it gets uploaded to there, and people are just going to think, oh my God, that's real. You know, that was the goal, was I wanted to like trick future humanity about like, is that somebody, is that Dwayne? Like, when did he do this?
Uncanny Valley.
Yeah. I wanted to play with that idea because, like, I don't necessarily believe in alternate timelines, but I like the idea of that. That, like,
See, this is where the physics come in.
this is where the physics comes in, exactly. You know, that like, what if this didn't happen?
Yeah.
What if Dwayne decided he hurt his leg and he decided not to pursue wrestling and tried to become an MMA fighter? What if that happened? This is that, you know?
You're so interested in obsessive people, I would say. People that can't stop themselves, even though they know it's going in the wrong direction. They're going in that direction anyway. Have you seen that a lot in your films? Are you an obsessive person?
Yes.
Yes.
Diagnosed. Obsessive compulsive. Yeah.
More obsessive.
You know what a great job is for somebody who's obsessive compulsive? Going into a room and painting the entire room. Because you literally go in there and you're like, all right, baseboards. It's like you literally break down the world into the smallest things, and then you have to cover it up, and you get to do it, and then when you're done, you're like, all right.
So that's what you do?
No, I did that one time, but it's just the idea. And the reason why I bring that up is twofold. I have the issue is like sometimes I can get very caught up on something. And if I'm caught up on something, literally everything else disappears and you're just focused on this one thing, and you can't get it out of your head. And you keep talking about it, And I've been in therapy for a very long time. But one of the things, every once in a while life gets in the way and you don't go, you don't talk to them for a little bit, and then you think, oh, I've got it under control, I can handle this. And the truth is you can't. And so there would be times, and this is a conversation I had with Mark, the real Mark Herr, where I said, yeah, there's times where like I get focused on this, or there's a mess here, there's this happening, and I can't stop. And I said, I know I'm wrong, but then if my wife says to me, like, in the nicest possible way, like, hey, just, when was the last time you saw your therapist? Just out of curiosity. And that just, I get so upset. Because I'm like, hey, I'm trying hard to do that, and you get really defensive. I painted
the whole apartment.
Yeah, you get really defensive about things, and you realize, like, she's right. I haven't been in a long time. I'm getting defensive about that, but I'm focused on this thing. And so then what he said to me is, he goes, oh, we call that don't work my program. And then I was like, oh, that's the word. And then I put it in the script, and then that's where that came from. But that's in a bad way. If you're obsessive in a bad way. And I think it's just a matter of like, but again, relating to this, it's when you realize that your obsession is hurting the people around you. You either address it or you don't. If you don't address it, the people leave you. If you do, then you can figure out a way to work it out. And again, I think that when you're seeing somebody in that mode of obsession, you can, if you're looking at it from an outside point of view, you can learn from that.
There's a line in the film where Mark tells Don, I need you to treat me like a man. What is he feeling there in your view?
So that actually came from, I was sliding through Instagram, like swiping on Instagram, watching these, because I've tuned the algorithm to give me good stuff. And I think it was either Sally Jesse Raphael or Ricky Lake. Do you know those shows? Yeah. But there was one where I think it was, I'm guessing, but I think that maybe it was a boyfriend and a girlfriend, and she might have cheated on him, and she was bringing him on the show, and he knew, but it was before the cameras were rolling, and he was like, he kept asking her to hug him. Well, are you going to hug me? Are you going to hold my hand? I need you to, and he said to her, I need you to treat me like a man, Justine. Just treat me like a man. And it was the way he asked it was so unmanly, you know, that here was this, and he was a big guy, but he was asking like, please, treat me like a man. And I could see that there was this, like, oh wow, he wants to be treated like a man, even though he's not acting like one. And in that scene, she calls him out for basically saying like, hey, get over it, you're acting like a child. And he gets really angry, and then he kind of realizes that he just wants to be, he doesn't want her to look down on him. I think that's what it is that there's the shame of him, of being caught. He thinks he's hiding himself. Oh, we were going to go on a hike. Yeah, right. Like, and what shape is he to do that? And so he gets caught. And I think by getting caught, he feels a little small. And he just wants her to treat him like, not like that. And she recognizes that, which is why it's so sad for her in that moment, that maybe, but he is like a little kid there. And I like the fact that he's conflicted. He wants her to treat him like a man, but then he also just wants a hug, you know, so.
Yeah, you have sons, I have sons. I mean, the world of the UFC is very brutal, and I'm thinking a little bit about, what do you talk to them about masculinity and vulnerability today in a world that's pretty hard for boys? And what have you learned from this film?
Well, that's the thing is, I think that like, this is something I've struggled with, is I'm somebody who will always swallow my own feelings and my own emotions for the benefit of other people. And that's bad for me. And Mark does that also. I think he does it when he's out there fighting, but he also does it in his private life. Where, this is not anybody else's problem. I'm going to deal with it. But then that means that other people are then going to deal with you trying to deal with it. You know, it's not going to work. So in that sense, I think that the idea is that like, hey, I talk about everything. I express emotions. They see me cry. I think that that's an important thing to know, that like there is strength in vulnerability, and that's important. And being tough is necessary sometimes, but like it makes me sad when my oldest son is like, I don't need this, or I'm this. I'm like, no, you can be okay. You can be scared. That's fine, you know? So what this movie basically is, you're looking at these people who you think should be able to handle anything at any moment, and yet they have feelings just like anybody else. I was talking to Mark the other day, and he's like, do you know how strange it is for people to come up to me, and when they ask me a question and I answer, they look at me like, you can talk. Wow. And you're so eloquent. And it's like, yeah. It's like, because it's like his body defies what you think. You make this judgment. And he has to go through that all the time, you know? And I'm like, oh, that's an interesting thing to look at, because, again, I'm interested in the insides of people also. So
it's such a poignant depiction of addiction, this film. It really struck me throughout that, I mean, basically addiction is control until it isn't. How did you start approaching that part of Mark Kerr's story?
Well, the thing is, it's a movie about addiction without being a movie about addiction. Because like, there's a stigma to addiction that if you hear it's a movie about addiction, I don't want to see a movie about addiction, that's going to be sad. So it's not a movie about addiction.
Tell your friends.
But at the same time, I wanted to show mainly what recovery looks like. Because when somebody's successful in overcoming that in a really truthful way, it's one of the most incredible things that you could witness. And also the struggle with it, I wanted to show somebody, again, like you look at Mark, and that doesn't look like somebody who's a heroin addict. But he basically was. Opiates, not heroin, but like prescription opiates. He was mainlining that. And it almost destroyed his life. But at the same time, he doesn't look like what your stereotypical drug addict looks like. But like, again, there was a whole thing where people were prescribed OxyContin, and they would just have a backache, and then they would take too much because that's what they were prescribed, because it wasn't addictive. And then they get addicted. It's not their fault. You know, maybe they're dealing with something that's too complicated and they don't know how to express themselves, so they turn to alcohol. And that's why they're drinking. But again, it's a stigma on that person, and it's a shame, and the shame is perpetual. It causes more of the same problem. And I wanted to show that, like, you can kick it. You can get better. But then when you get better, there's going to be other problems that happen.
The relationship.
The relationship.
Codependency.
Exactly. The codependency of the fact that, like, oh, wait, we had something going for a long period of time. I took care of you when you needed me to, and like that was... So again, these aren't necessarily... These are things that I think are truthful and happen in the real world, and I'm like, hey, we should show that, you know? So for especially if you're somebody who is an addict and you're in a relationship with somebody who also is, and when that person stops, then you're in a place where, like, well, where am I? Where do I stand? What do I do? And it's just, it's a complicated place to be that I think, again, like loss, people don't talk about a lot of the times. And I wanted to talk about all that stuff, but I wanted you to feel good at the end of the movie. Like, a show of hands, how many of you feel good? See, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
you know, I think for a movie where all this stuff happens, I'm of the mindset of like, hey, you're alive. You know, you made it through. You're happy. Like he's making small talk. He's making jokes. It's awesome. Good for him. And look at all he accomplished in his life. Yeah, he didn't win the big prize, but he gets to say that he did all that stuff. That's really cool. So I wanted to make a movie where the win at the end isn't necessarily the win that you're expecting, but it's just as big, you know?
I want to talk a little bit about acting. You've worked with some of the best as an actor, right? Paul Thomas Anderson, Nolan, just a few guys.
Just those.
We can't wait for the Odyssey. What have you learned about directing actors from your experience with them?
So, first of all, it's like you walk onto the sets and they have different vibes. And then you're like, ooh, this feels nice. Like, how do they do that? And then you kind of you see how it happens. You see the shorthand with everybody, and you just kind of fall into that. I'm sorry, did I bore? I bored. Apologies, sir.
The actor.
Okay. It's what? The next movie, okay. Oh, I thought you were saying the next one, like you hated this one. Good luck. Thank you. But yeah, so basically you kind of see different sets, you see the different kind of vibes, and I'll give an example. I've given this before, but like with Paul, there's this, he sees everything, and he also invited me to watch dailies of stuff, and I never watched dailies, even like on the movies that I made, because I wanted to keep things pure, because as an editor, I like to go in as a documentary. I have all the footage, and I start from scratch at the end of a movie, and I start from the beginning, and I go right to the end. No rough cuts, just as fine as possible as I could do.
Obsessive.
Obsessive, exactly. I edit with my eyes closed sometimes, because I listen to the sound. I listen to the sound, even though like I don't like doing ADR, so I want to make it perfect. But so he goes, oh, come watch dailies. So we watch dailies, and I'm watching the dailies from the thing that I did a couple days ago, and I'm realizing, oh wow. And you have a conversation about it, like, oh, that's really cool. That part, I should bring more of that to the scene that we're doing this time. And you start realizing, oh, while it's happening, it's alive. So you can kind of take that stuff and you can morph it. So then I started watching dailies. So I start watching dailies. I started doing. This is the first movie where I know that on The Curse I edited a bunch while we were shooting too, to see if things were working. And again, keeping this idea that it's alive. On Paul's set, there's this like really fun kind of competitive nature where you want to all do the best that you can, and you're kind of nudging each other to get better. I like that. That's fun, and it made me do better. And with Chris, he has such a command over everything, but at the same time, you're very connected to the process with him. He tells you everything that's happening, and by being connected and seeing where he's placing the cameras, because he has an idea of it, but he's doing it in the moment, and it's very exciting. And so you're seeing the whole thing happen, and you realize, oh, there's this giant production, but at the same time, it's just us right here in the middle of like the Icelandic beaches at 4 a.m, and we're all just doing a movie. You know, it makes it small in a really beautiful way, and his confidence in you and why you're there really makes you feel like when you do it and he moves on, you're like, oh yes, did it.
Nice.
Yeah, and like again, you think all these things that make you feel good as an actor, and then you think about how maybe you can incorporate some of that into how you work, and also you're working with actors who you might not cast, and you're learning stuff from them too, which I think is really special too.
Are you going to work with Josh again?
I don't know. You know, you never. Who knows? Right now, I'm pretty happy not. You know, just because like I don't have to have those like just speed wise. Like you don't have to have a conversation about a lot of stuff. You can just do it. Like I don't have to be like. So what do you do? Should we do like? You don't have to have those kind of arguments. But it's just you know. It's I'll never say never. But we've made some really beautiful, amazing movies together, and I've learned so much over the process that like it's great to be able to continue that on separate paths. You know, the fact that we both have movies coming out, I think, is really cool. And I don't know when that seems rare. But yeah, so
But you're working with Dwayne again.
I am working with Dwayne again. Yes. But yeah, so it's just a matter of where I am right now. It's like these are the things I want to do, and I can accomplish them, so I'm going to go do that.
We're going to wrap up now because you have a big prize waiting for you. I just want to ask
right there, isn't it?
Yeah, right there. You've been looking at it. You want that one. But I just have to ask you, I know you're a boxer. I mean, you boxed for quite substantial amount of time.
I guess
10
so.
years or something. So how long would you last in the octagon?
Oh, 5 seconds.
Okay.
Because it's funny, I was doing pad work with Boz. I did a lot of work with I was like, this is my chance to be around these fighters. I loved it. So we had a gym in the basement of our offices where we did all the fight coordination, and we would film them, and I would edit them to make sure they would all work for the day of. But I would always be down there, and I would hitting the heavy bag, I would hit pads. When Boz came, I did pad work with him, and he destroyed me just by like how fast I was moving. And then he's like, all right, now add in a knee. And as soon as I added in a knee, cardio-wise, I was destroyed. So like 2 knees in, and all somebody has to do is touch me, and I would fall over. You know, so it really is physically one of the most MMA. Like boxing, I could maybe last 30 seconds, and then before I get knocked out. But probably 5. But the truth is what I loved about boxing was the community of the boxing gym. When you submit to that world, everybody is so they look out for you. They are your friends. You talk about things you wouldn't talk about with anybody. It's a very loving, supporting environment, which you wouldn't expect. And I wanted to show that in this movie, that everybody's looking out for each other. And they're trying to make you feel good about even the losses you had. But when you spar with somebody and they picked you, even though they're going to beat you up, like, wow, they want to beat me up. Like that means something. They didn't want to beat him up, they want to beat me up. Because I got something that I can do for him, It was that I had a strong hook for whatever it was. They wanted me to get that work in for them. Even though I was going to get destroyed, at least there was a reason I was in there with them. And then when they were done and they wanted to do it again, you'd be like, oh my God, yes. It was the greatest thing. You wanted to have that work, and it's addictive, because
slightly masochistic.
It is, very much so. But I think that's what a lot of people struggle with is when that stops, where do you get that from? Because it's an addictive feeling to go in there and feel so alive and present that when that goes away, what do you do,
Benny, stay obsessed.
Okay.
Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you.
And
thank you all.
I'm going to introduce Geet Shanius, who's going to give you an award. Congratulations.
Oh, wow.
And thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this great conversation. And it's so wonderful to have you back here. 16 years ago, we were screening Daddy Longlegs here, and you were here at Stockholm. And so I thought that we should start with to look at some of your careers in a show reel.
Wow. That's wild.
And the motivation is as following. With New York as his scene, he infuses the city's unique atmosphere into some of the strongest descriptions of the urban human condition of the 2000s. Like John Cassavetes, Safdie captures his characters with intelligence and honesty and a voice for people who end up losing in America, where everyone strives to be a winner. Technically masterful and with a unique voice, he balances controlled stress, a sympathetic gaze, and a genre-bending wholeness in both neo-noir and sport drama. With a high pulse and pounding empathetic heart, he rightened himself into modern film history. We are very proud to present this year's Stockholm Visionary Award to director and actor Benny Safdie.
Wow. Thank you. There's actually something. So in 2009, my brother and I, we came to the Stockholm Film Festival, and it was this. There were all these movies playing. It was all this big. It was a big thing for us, you know. And I remember they were giving away the bronze horse, and it was the heaviest award. And I think it might have been Susan Sarandon that year who got it. And I was just like, wow, who gets those things? You know, who gets that award? And then I just moved on, thinking, not ever thinking like, oh yeah, you might get that. So it's kind of wild, you know, to be back here 16 years later, getting the thing that I thought I would that never even entered my mind as a possibility. So thank you very much for that. And to see that, it's kind of, yeah, it's like you don't really focus in on sometimes I go back and I'll look at the things that I've done, but you kind of lose track of them. So to see them all together was very meaningful too, to kind of make the connections that maybe I didn't make and say, oh yeah, there's that from that. And anyway, this is really something very, very meaningful. I want to thank A24 for letting me make Smashing Machine the way that I wanted to make it, and they really believed in it. I want to thank Dwayne and everybody involved in that, and my family, and to be back here after so many years, you know, and now first with my brother and now by myself, I think that there's something. It's a beautiful thing to hold this giant weight, and it'll occupy a nice space in my life. So thank you.